touch everything. Now, that's not what my wife told me, especially when I was dating her.
Okay, we are going to begin. If we could have a little more quiet in the audience so that the audio can pick up what we say. Thank you. This is the regular board meeting of the Santa Barbara City College Board of Trustees, Thursday, April 28th, 2016. And I'm calling the meeting to order. All of our members of the Board of Trustees are present, and we have a wonderful audience. I think I know why, and we welcome you. Thank you for coming, and we will not be hurt. We will not have hurt feelings if you leave before we're done. So we have a long agenda today. We have some very happy items we're looking forward to. We have the annual Outstanding Classified Employee and honorable mentions. I think a few of you know about that. We have an honorarium for Dr. Kelly Lake. A report on the superintendent's search update. 2 reports on sabbatical outcomes. A report on our Cuba Study Abroad program. A new EVP, 7 new full-time faculty appointments, all on our agenda. So those are great things. We also have one very sad item, and that is that we have for our approval Dr. Gaskin's retirement. I know each of us will want to comment when we get to that item, and I also know that Lori doesn't like a fuss, so. She's told me many times she doesn't like a fuss, she doesn't like to blush. So we will each make brief comments when we get there. Items to be taken out of order, we don't have any. Hearing of citizens, anyone, Angie? No citizens. We go to the minutes of the regular meetings of March 10 and March 24, 2016. I'm guessing we can take them together. Do we have a motion for that?
Motion to approve?
Both dates?
Yes.
Second.
Okay, Angie, you got that? Any comments, corrections, whatever? All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's it. Now we go to the Outstanding Classified Employee and honorable mentions. Liz, are you going to do that for us?
Good afternoon, members of the board. It's my honor as a classified representative to be able to do this presentation. The selections were made by the combined classified leadership of the Classified Consultation Group and the CSEA Executive Committee. Just want to let you know. Okay. And all the candidates were great, but we had to make a selection, and to be an honorable mention is a good thing, and to be the outstanding classified employee is a good thing. So I will start with the honorable mentions. Okay, the first honorable mention works in the payroll department as the payroll coordinator. She's worked in the payroll office for more than 10 years. As a result of her extensive knowledge of payroll, retirement, leave, and banner processes, employees all over the college call on her and depend on her for help. She never hesitates to assist others and is happy to help. She is patient, professional, and is a genuinely caring person. Other departments and employees frequently call her with questions and ask for assistance in performing tasks when entering information into Banner and to ask her advice. She is hardworking, dedicated, and a very diligent employee. She thinks independently, researches, and works with other staff members to test solutions needed to overcome obstacles before the solutions are implemented. She takes the initiative to see things get done accurately and in a timely manner with little or no disruption to others. This was very important during the college's move to become fiscally independent. She always puts the concerns of the college, other employees, students, and family before herself. Please recognize Estella Lopez as an honorable mention. Unfortunately, she's absent today, so. Can you take it, Joe, after the meeting? Okay, the next honorable mention. Works in the math department as a lab teaching assistant. She offers content-specific tutoring in the highest level classes, provides technical troubleshooting support for the computer labs, gathers and analyzes data for program review and special reports, researches and orders software and furniture for both the tutorial and computer labs, attends every department meeting, and provides detailed lab reports to the department. She develops new and innovative hiring procedures and trainings for tutors and facilitates gateway discussion sections and DSPS tutorial support with the math lab. To increase her effectiveness in the math lab, she served on the 2016 Starfish Committee, the 2015 Accreditation Committee, and the Computer Laboratory Advisory Work Group. She is humble and sweet, and she spends absolutely all of her time serving others rather than drawing attention to herself. She's extremely intelligent, effective, and selfless in her service to the college. Please recognize Allison Chapin as a 2016 honorable mention. Yeah, you have to come down to get your award. And you also get to say something if you like. The next honorable mention works as an administrative assistant 3 confidential for the Vice President of Business Services. She has worked at SBCC for 9 years. She handles an immense workload assisting her VP. She not only handles her workload with aplomb, but has spearheaded the creation and effective management of the emergency services and SBCC Sustainable Commute Program. Thanks to her, we now have more safety marshals than ever before, and they have all had training specific to their building. She has also worked to get the SBCC commute program up and running. SBC now has 3 bike sheds, multiple bike lockers, increased bike racks, 2 clean air cars, a small fleet of electric bicycles, and self-service bike fix-it stations. She is an amazing person. She is serious about her commitments, what she is doing, and yet she is fun to be around. She works well with anyone, including the sometimes angry or difficult people her position encounters. She is much more than a coworker, she is a friend. She is kind-hearted, authentic, caring, and understanding. She was always ready to listen, and when she gives you feedback, she is honest and uplifting. She is a natural leader. Please recognize Alexander Thayer Young as an honorable mention.
I'm too shy.
Okay. The next honorable mention works as a lab teaching assistant in the Writing Center. She provides dedicated service to students, staff, and faculty through her coordination of the many facets of the Writing Center tutoring practice. Her efforts over the last 5 years have helped to build a strong, connected community of learners and writers. She promotes the center's learning-centered philosophy through her involvement in campus workshops and tutor training. She worked closely with her colleagues to develop a protocol for the center tutors and collaborated with the group to troubleshoot and solve issues. She creates and supports a complex schedule for the tutors, and she also developed a successful online system for managing tutor requests for substitutes. She has presented at past conferences about the Writing Center's engagement with student learning outcomes, and she continues to gather data to assess their performance. She is a published author and continues to develop her own writing. In the past, she has worked with Poets in the Schools, a group which encourages students to write, perform, and publish their own poetry. She also acts as a life coach in her own practice outside the college. Please join me in recognizing Beth Taylor Scott as an honorable mention. Okay. The 2016 Outstanding Classified Employee of the Year works in the Faculty Resource Center as a Development Specialist Senior. He is a key member of the FRC staff charged with handling training for Moodle, Canvas, Google Tools, voice tools used to provide interactive feedback to students, iPhone, iPad, tablet, and Android apps, Photoshop, Turning Point audience response hardware, software, and analysis for Curriculanet and Illumin, among other applications. He is an excellent trainer and consultant. Faculty who have worked with him respond that he is a gem in the FRC. Calm, knowledgeable, skillful, full of solution, and takes on the difficult task of analyzing problems when faculty are stuck in a technology moment. He is in an unusual position as a classified employee in that he can also speak to the classroom, as he is an adjunct instructor with an MBA in Finance and Marketing who practices what the FRC recommends. He has also been very involved with Student Learning Outcomes, or SLOs. He took responsibility not only for training faculty to enter their course SLOs and SLO scores into Illumin, to map their course SLOs to program and institutional SLOs, and to enter their course improvement plans, but has also managed the SBC Illum system as its data steward. Because of his exceptional expertise and service with regard to SLOs, he was asked to sit as a voting member on the District SLO Advisory Committee, along with the EVP, the SLO Dean, the SLO Coordinator, and representatives from credit, non-credit, and student support programs and services. He works in concert with the SLO Coordinator, directly with the vendor Illumin, to develop their product and customize it to their needs, to our needs. His work and opinions are trusted absolutely by the college. We have a perfect SLO record with the ACCJC to show for it. Outside of work, he works as a volunteer with Freedom Warming Shelter in Santa Barbara, which provides an indoor place to sleep, a hot dinner, and a packed lunch to the homeless on nights when it is raining or too cold to stay outside. He and his wife also serve as foster parents. He is a colleague who never underdoes anything. He solves problems, takes the initiative, collaborates generously, and contributes without drawing attention. He can be relied on to get whatever needs done. To reflect on our approaches, methods, goals, and suggested change when where he feels it will help. He is tactful but honest in his opinions, and we regularly benefit from his considered input. He is an exceptional colleague who makes what we do better and happily also makes it more enjoyable for all. Please recognize Robert Brown as the 2016 Outstanding Classified Employee of the Year.
I'll just say thank you, and I work with a great group of people, and it's just really an honor to work with them, and I just feel really blessed to have this recognition. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes my presentation.
Okay. Thank you, Liz, and congratulations to Robert, Estella, Allison, Alexandra, and Beth. This is a real honor, and we so much appreciate your work at the college. Thank you. Okay, we move on to a related matter, which is Resolution 27, Classified School Employee Week. This is a resolution, so I need a motion to basically declare, I guess is the word here, declare the week.
I move approval of Resolution 27 to declare Classified School Employee Week.
Veronica moves, second.
I second it.
Mary Ann. Any comments, anyone? Okay. Angie?
Trustee Croninger,
Aye.
Trustee Gallardo,
Aye.
Trustee Bloom,
Aye.
Trustee Haslin,
Aye.
Trustee Abode,
Aye.
Trustee Kugler,
Aye.
Trustee Nielsen,
Aye.
Student Trustee Gribler. Sorry.
Aye. Okay. And now we have the presentation of the honorarium and certificate to Dr. Kelly Lake.
This is certainly the season, hold those applause. Certainly the season for recognition, and for our faculty lecture, that's no exception. Those of us who were in attendance were wowed by Kelly's depth of knowledge, but more importantly, his heart. And through his teaching, his heart and his soul really comes through. It's often said that teaching is a mirror to oneself, and Kelly exemplifies that. We found, I think, to a person, your lecture to be so accessible, and your frame of reference for all of us learners so beautiful and so right on. So Kelly, it is my honor to award you, and you need to come on down, with an honorarium and a plaque. And there is certainly nothing more affirming than to be recognized by one's peers, and in this case, as the 2015-16 Faculty Lecturer of the Year.
Kim, this is going to be a hard act to follow.
So, good evening, members of the board, Dr. Gaskin. Yeah, this was a great way to start this meeting. This is my last report to you as Senate President. The next time the Senate President reports will be the end of May, and Dr. Priscilla Butler will be President. She's President-elect now. She's wonderful. She's an outstanding faculty member in ESL and has done incredible work already in leadership, both on the Senate with our accreditation report and non-credit, more things than I can name. So she's going to do a wonderful job, and I can't wait to see her work. So for the report tonight, briefly, I'm coming back to the grounding of where we are in our life and our progress as an academic institution, and that is one more week of classes for students. So you can kind of feel the energy in the writing center and in the hallways, and students are working really hard to consolidate their skills and do as well as they can as they finish their classes, and the instructors are working really hard to help them as well. So it's always an intense time in our lives, and with it being spring, of course, it's also a time of celebration for a lot of accomplishment. On April 15th, we had President's Honor Roll. A week from tomorrow, we have Outstanding Student Awards. Then, of course, we have commencement, and different departments and programs have their own ceremonies to honor their students. I know in my area, the honors program and the English department has ceremonies for their students, and they're beautiful, and they're this affirmation of our community and of the growth and progress that students make in their time with us here. When the year ends, I always think how incredibly privileged we all are to dedicate ourselves to helping people grow and develop. I mean, it's one of the great things about being human, and we are so privileged, so it's a really special time. I wanted to just share two details of Senate business of note. At our last meeting, we did adopt a resolution to support working to adopt more open educational resources for students. These are the high-quality online materials. There are many outstanding textbooks that are available for free. And there's been a lot of work to curate and find those and review them. And so AB 798, College Textbook Affordability Act, put out a call for grants, and there's a lot of steps towards that grant. So we took the first step of adopting a resolution, and then we're going to develop our plan, and we'll submit it on June 30th. So it's an exciting progress to try to make college more affordable for students. Also, what's really great about this process is it's a lot of work to do this, and I put out a call for a coordinator, and the response was from somebody who's a full-time librarian and a part-time adjunct librarian, Cameron Paulson. And she sees firsthand how expensive textbooks are. She's there seeing these students come and check out these expensive books and have to use them at the library and leave. And as a librarian, she knows what's out there, and she's so excited to be our coordinator, and we're so grateful to her to have her expertise. And it's this example of this collaboration that we can have across faculty and staff, and also students. This really happened because our student Senate representative, Brianna Seguenza, brought it from the Student Senate and said, hey, we really would love for you guys to do this. I'm like, oh yeah, we're really busy, but yeah, we should. And so really, she made a presentation to us and really basically inspired me to get on it and recruit people and get the work done. And so it's one of those times when we really work together to make things better for our students. And so I'm excited for that project. The second point I wanted to mention was that the Senate is going to be bringing some thoughts to our next College Planning Council meeting about how to respond to enrollment declines. This is a discussion that I know the board is starting as well. And while we're looking for a sustainable size, we are comfortable with the college getting smaller. Once these trends start, sometimes they can go further than you might expect, and we want to make sure that we can still offer the full range of classes and programs and support services that make us such an outstanding college. And so we are going to be looking at our practices to ensure that we are supporting enrollment at the sustainable level to be the college that we want to be. So we're looking forward to that discussion under Dr. Gaskin's leadership at College Planning Council. And then, since this is my last public report to you and to our community, I want to emphasize how amazing it is to collaborate with the people here. The greatest privilege of being Senate President is working with so many people from all areas, the faculty from departments that I didn't know as well, many different staff, and our managers, and Dr. Gaskin and our amazing EVP, Marilyn, stepped in this year and has done so much for us, and all of the deans. Everybody works so hard here, loves it, wants to problem solve, always answered my questions and worked with me on something when I asked them to, and it's just, we have an amazing culture here that is so committed to doing the best job we can to serve our students, to use our resources from the public responsibly, and it is an incredible privilege to work with them. You felt it during the awards earlier, just how we are such a community, and together we can do so many great things. And in closing, you are part of that community too. And I have watched you, and I wouldn't come to the board meetings if I didn't have to, but now maybe I will sometimes. But whether I do or not, I know you're here doing this incredible work for your community and for the college, and you are working hard, and you are responsible and diligent, and representing the people who elected you, and helping the college meet its mission. And this last project, you're about to hire our next superintendent president, and I know how hard you've worked on that. You were so careful to make this a transparent and thorough process. Open forums that were live streamed, invited email from everybody that you read and answered. It's just so thorough and thoughtful and responsible, and included the community and all of us. And so I thank you for that, which represents the work that you're doing all the time. So thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Kim. I would have mentioned it if I had looked more closely at the calendar and realized this was your last presentation to us. But you have been wonderful. We have learned so much from you about the Senate, about all of the ways in which you are reaching out to the college and the different parts of the college, as you were just describing. And it's just been a great experience for us too, and we appreciate working with you and look forward to working with Priscilla as well.
Great tradition. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marcia,
Oh, Jonathan,
question for Kim.
you've got a question? Don't trip.
she was
I
done.
really like the open source textbook initiative, and I was wondering what the board could do to help advance that, because I really believe in that.
Get the students iPads.
I think we all do.
You know, I think the state of California is taking care of it for you. You know, by setting up the bill, by creating the grant. I think it's nice to hear that you also believe in it. But I'll try to think about that. But right now, it's going well. Thank you. All right.
I think Jonathan was maybe envisioning tablet carts all around campus, so wherever you're at, you just.
I will say, we talked about this at our joint meeting with the school boards. Typically, you also try to get these downloadable and
Oh,
printable,
good.
because
And
just the
readers.
electronic access, it's more difficult to take in information. So it's just duplicating costs. And we'll be
good.
working with the campus bookstore to be, charges a little, they have to charge a little to pay for the work, but it'll be inexpensive really just for the duplicating, because most of us are very
Yeah.
interested in annotating and being able to review whether the online's working or not and all those things. And that's actually part of the act. They talk about that. What are your plans to make sure this can be accessible in a print version as well?
That's really good.
Yeah, it is.
Think of everything.
Associated Students Report. Emily, you're giving that to us?
I am. Isaac was unable to attend this afternoon, so I will speak on his behalf. So good afternoon, members of the board, President Gatskin. The past month, Senate as a whole has done many things. We had the election for next year's ASG president, and Dylan Raymond, an intelligent and driven student, was elected. I'm also pleased to inform you that your fellow board member, Trustee Gribble, will be continuing her position as student trustee into the next academic year. Furthermore, we had students vote on the MTD contract renewal, and it has passed. A couple of weekends ago, we had a Good Neighbor barbecue. We had over 100 neighbors and students show up and enjoy food and games. While it was not as successful as we would have liked, we had to cancel the first one because of the rain. We learned a lot about preparing and to do more barbecues like this one. The Community Outreach Committee will be preparing similar events as we hope to continually build stronger relations with the neighboring communities. We hosted a viewing of Homestretch, a documentary on homeless teens, and a large show out of interested students. Finally, this weekend, Senate members will be attending General Assembly in Ontario, California, where many resolutions will be voted on that will affect California community colleges. Coming up to the end of the semester, the focus is shifting towards preparing the next Senate to come. We are reforming our internal committee structures to make them more efficient, and will be reviewing other things in efforts to prepare for the next Student Senate as much as possible. Thank you, Isaac.
Thank you, Emily. We're delighted that you will continue with us. Liz.
Good afternoon again. The consultation group has met a couple of times since your last meeting. Our last meeting, Robert Else came and went over in detail the results of the reflection survey that was given. And we also participated in the interactive plump meeting, many of our members, where we brainstormed where things would go in the ideal world on the west and east campus of the college. And then finally, we had almost a full meeting of the time before of board policies and procedures. And we, as far as I know, we finished all the ones that had been sent to us. If there's more coming, there's more coming. We did a whole meeting on it and got all the ones done that we knew we were supposed to be doing. So I hope those move forward, and we then start the next cycle. Thanks.
Well, that's great. You've been working hard, as we know. Dr. Gaskin.
Thank you. My comments will be brief, but in the spirit of continuing this season of recognition, I am very pleased to announce that Becky Saffold has been recognized by the state chancellor's office as Classified Employee of the Year. And we just found out. So Becky will be recognized with that honor at the Board of Governors meeting in mid-May, and she will be taking a trip up there. And we are all thrilled. The packet that we assembled in support of Becky was so genuine and authentic, and it just revealed somebody who is beloved across this campus. So congratulations to Becky. Again, in the spirit of recognizing the season, we are in the hiring season. And indeed, Marcia, you mentioned that you're hiring 7 new faculty this evening on your consent agenda. That's out of 23 positions, faculty positions that we're hiring. 12 of those positions are new faculty positions and 11 are replacements. And with the sum total of the 23, you're hiring 7 tonight. We have 12 in process and 4 have failed. And the failing, it's inevitable. It's because the pool was not robust, or it's a very, very difficult discipline to hire in. And in several instances, particularly nursing and computer science, we have repeatedly had to go out. And so that is something that we will need to continue to do. So you will see more hires as we continue on through the first and second meetings in May, and that should conclude it. In addition, tonight, as the institution has heard on the agenda, is the hiring of our new Executive Vice President for Educational Programs, Dr. Paul Jarrell. And we're absolutely pleased, and I think Marilyn calls him my Paul, is what you're doing. You're just so excited that he is almost on board. That's it.
Thank you.
Oh, I had one other comment, and Liz, thank you very much for mentioning the facility master plan. We're in the final stages of our facility master plan. It had a 3-stage process. The first 2 stages we called plump, but the 3rd stage really culminates in a facilities master plan. And boy, they have been working all year long. This is the part that's kind of the backstory to a facilities master plan, really analyzing all of our facilities across our 3 campuses, now engaging with our consultative groups and coming forward in fall with a final plan, late fall with a final plan. That's what we're looking at. So we will have done something that we haven't had for 30, 40 years. And that's it.
Okay. We now go to the report from board members. And Jonathan, facilities?
Facilities didn't meet this week. We were supposed to, but we had the forum, so that
Okay.
took precedence.
We understand. Mary Ann?
The fiscal committee doesn't meet on this week of the month, but I just want to tell you that we have been meeting over the last several months concerned about the fact that we are in a different financial picture than we have been for the last few years. And I just want to remind you and all of us that it's going to be pretty tight, and we have to be prepared for that. And to say thank you to Kim for the really careful work that the Academic Senate is doing in thinking through what can be done and what must be done and what has to be put off. And I apologize to the whole world for ever having to put off anything, but we all know that's the way it goes.
Okay. Peter?
The Ed Policies Committee did meet. We had 2 items on our agenda. The first of which was to explore in depth the nature of the college promise, and we had as our guest responded Jeff Green, the chair of the CEO of the foundation. We were interested in various aspects of the college promise. We wanted to know about sustainability. We wanted to know about the long range. We wanted to know about what aspects of a student's costs would be covered. We wanted to know how the funds would be raised. And Jeff did an admirable job in presenting his point of view, the facts as they are, and what this does is to remove what many perceive as contemporary barriers to access to the college by students who graduate from Santa Barbara area high schools. That's the single requirement. I think, and I think the committee believes that this is a wonderful step in the right direction toward the elimination of any kinds of financial barriers. But the point was also made that this is not free. We're not doing something that is going to be free. We're shifting who pays for it, and for Santa Barbara, for Santa Barbara Community College District, it is being shifted to the philanthropic sector. It's a statement that the people in Santa Barbara, in our area, believe in education and want to support the students coming from the local area, both in terms of the tuition and the book costs, which are very often in excess of what the tuition costs are. So this is about access, it's about investment, our investment in our future and in the future of our students. The second issue had to do with the establishment of priorities for presentation of major issues, and I'm given my prompt here for the coming year. We're going to be looking in September. Obviously, it's getting a little late in the year to take up a new issue, but we'll look at gearing up for success programs. And we have had a number of successes in this area, and we want to look at how these programs are both sustainable and how they can be ramped up and made use of on a larger scale. We'll look in October at STEM transfer programs. We'll look at the MESA program in November, Faculty Experiential Learning Institute in February, and I'm eager to learn more about that. Student support services in March, and the IPATH program in April of 2017. And of course, these are all subject to evaluation and re-evaluation by an incoming superintendent-president. But these are our goals, and we are working with the superintendent-president to make sure that these presentations provide us with the kind of information that this Board of Trustees is eager to obtain.
Okay.
Thoughts by my colleagues?
No. Good job.
Thank you.
Really,
Anyone else?
Really great
Craig?
explanation. Appreciated it.
Yeah.
Thanks. Anyone else?
I had help.
Okay. Pat, we have our superintendent-president search update.
Good afternoon, members of the board and Dr. Gaskin. I do have an update for you this afternoon, but I'm going to start with background back in November for those of you who haven't been following along. The search for our next superintendent-president is drawing to a close. The process began in November with meetings with board members and a community survey to identify the desirable characteristics of our next superintendent-president. The position announcement was professionally formatted by our in-house publications department. I owe a special thank you to Melanie Ballinger for her work, and this was distributed beginning mid-January. By mid-March, we received a total of 42 applications, and a 16-member screening committee ably led by Jeff Green and Kim Monda reviewed the applications, concluded that the applicant pool was well qualified, and invited 12 candidates to interview for the position. We're especially grateful to Robert Eganoff, Billy Montz, and Kathy Smith, who represented the community on this important committee. At the conclusions of the interview in early April, the screening committee recommended 5 finalists to the Board of Trustees. Our search firm, Community College Search Services, prepared reference reports on the 5 finalists. One of the finalists withdrew her candidacy, and we introduced 4 finalists to the campus and the community in a community forum held this past Monday. Despite especially heavy winds, the forum on Monday was well attended, both literally and virtually. The event was held in the Garvin Theater. It began at 10 in the morning and it concluded at 3:30 in the afternoon. I have to say thank you to my fantastic team of volunteer greeters, ushers, and microphone managers. And a special thanks to Jason Walker and Scott Kennedy for organizing this group of volunteers who helped host this important event and ensure that all of the guests were comfortably seated in the Garvin. I'm going to be giving special thanks to certain people, and I'm apprehensive about that because I'm afraid I'm going to overlook somebody, but I'm sorry. Okay. There was a sizable audience in the theater, as well as many who viewed the event online thanks to live streaming. At its peak, I understand we had about 150 viewers online. Thanks to Pam Lasker and Jason Flynn for supporting this event in the theater, and a huge thanks to Orrin Fales, right over here, in IT for the successful live delivery of this event. We could not have done this without this completely collaborative team. The 4 finalists introduced at the community forum are, I'm in alphabetical order here, Dr. Anthony Beebe, current president of San Diego City College in San Diego, California; Dr. Kindred Murillo, current president of Lake Tahoe Community College in South Lake Tahoe, California; Dr. Melinda Nish, current president of Southwestern College in Chula Vista, California; and Dr. Jill Stearns, current president of Modesto Junior College in Modesto. Each 1-hour presentation by each finalist was divided into 2 parts. The first part included structured questions. Various constituent groups submitted questions, and 6 structured questions were developed from the questions submitted by these groups. Thank you for all of those questions that came in. We then had an open mic question and answer opportunity. Audience members were invited to ask the finalists questions, and I want to thank Kenley Neufeld and Dan Watkins for facilitating those audience questions, my microphone managers. The event was moderated by Interim Executive Vice President Marilyn Spaventa. Marilyn, thank you for doing such a great job emceeing the event. The audience was invited to provide comments and feedback to the board about the finalists online. Thank you again to Dan Watkins for making this feedback opportunity available. We received about 66 comments, and those comments were all delivered to the board prior to the interviews. The board interviewed these 4 finalists on Tuesday, April 26th, so just 2 days ago. And I need to express our appreciation to the Santa Barbara Foundation for the use of their facilities, as well as their gracious and warm welcome and hospitality to all of us.
Thank you, Pat. We appreciate the comments we received. Your participation was important to us, and we read them carefully. And Pat has been referring to this team who made this whole process possible as the Village. So I would just like to thank the Village collectively, because that's what makes it work. And you as well, Pat, as Village leader.
Careful. Thank you. Eva Conrad, who has been here intermittently delivering the reports and has served from CCSS as our consultant, has been just a fantastic leader through this process and a great role model for.
Yes, Eva has been tremendous, helping us along. But without you, Pat, anyway.
Thank you.
As Pat said, the board has interviewed the 4 finalists. We commend the search committee for sending us such excellent candidates. We thank you. And the board has a single final candidate and is in the process of taking the needed steps before announcing our decision. So, stay tuned. Thank you.
Marcia?
Yeah.
Just to comment on I think this was the first time we've actually tried to stream the dialogue, the forum presentations. And I think they were immensely successful. I walked down the halls of the IDC the other day and heard faculty talking about that experience. And they were able to go on with their regular daily routine at the same time that they could tune in and be a part of the process. I think there was not only genuine appreciation for that possibility, but also a level of I'd use the word maybe contentment. We're part of it. We haven't been excluded. And I think that was a very valuable contribution.
Well, thank you, Peter, for pointing that out. It's hard because you're always going to schedule this when somebody has a class or somebody has another commitment that they can't see it. So we did what we could to address that. And I understand even our local news organizations were using the live screening and didn't have to show up. Okay, report of sabbatical outcomes by Betsy.
Well, yes, I'd like to begin before we start with Betsy, is to comment that one of the things that this institution takes great pride on is supporting our faculty in professional growth and development, and that's manifested in many ways. In fact, many of the candidates who we are interviewing ask about institutional support for professional growth. And Marilyn and I go on for about a half an hour, and I'm kidding, about all of the ways that we support our faculty and staff. Notable, however, is our ongoing belief in sabbaticals. And we have 2 sabbatical reports tonight. And Betsy, you are first up from ESL, and it is a joy to hear about your experience.
Great. Well, yes, I have an ongoing interest in the sabbaticals too. I just have to say what a gift to be able to step aside for a year and create more space. I learned that life still happens. It's still busy on sabbatical. Not only your professional work, but all of the family responsibilities and all those things also go on. But what a gift to have kind of more mind space to be able to think and reflect and plan. I just think that's invaluable for faculty because we run really hard. And when we're not working, we're probably exhausted, just recuperating. So it was a great year just to really took a couple months to kind of rest, but the reflection was wonderful. So the goals of my sabbatical was to present a new curricular model to the ESL department. And, you know, that's the goal to start out with. But of course, in this reflection time and studying time and discussion time, a lot of different things happen. And I would say that an outcome really was looking at how we support our students in a lot of different areas, in student services and academic support, in pedagogy. So not just a curricular framework, but all of the other things that go into student success. And those are a lot of the things that I was thinking about. And a lot of the things that we've been working on in ESL. But to start with, I kind of thought about all the concerns that have gone around and around in our department for a long time. Things like that everyone's concerned about: declining enrollment, persistence, retention, all those things. We have a lot of specific ideas for incorporating career exploration and goal setting into classes, kind of systematizing that. We talk about academic support, using embedded tutoring better, drop-in tutors, building community. We know that having a sense of community is so important for students to stay consistent in their studies. We wonder about drawing former students back from the community into ESL and what that would take. And integrating professional development, because right now we don't have ongoing professional development specifically for ESL teachers, but you'll be hearing from Marit Termata Martinson next year, who's on sabbatical this year, developing that piece for our program. So in the fall, I kind of took all these concerns and I built a curricular model, brought it back to the faculty in the fall. It was awkward, it was ungainly, really, and it was really good feedback, but it gave us something concrete to talk about and to react to. And I think that was really healthy. And one of the things that came out of that is that a lot of people said that we needed to revise our writing curriculum. So we began doing just that in the spring under a grant. And we've been revising and working on that for a year or so. And in the fall, we're implementing those changes. And that's just been a really exciting collaborative process that will continue through next year of thinking about our teaching, thinking about new ways to integrate critical thinking and things like that into our critical reading and evidence-based writing support into our writing instruction. So even though the outcome, my proposed outcome was, curricular models, other things have come out. Another piece of that is that we're going to have some new classes to help students with kind of sentence level grammar and editing across campus, because we get a lot of feedback on campus that non-native speakers need more support in their other classes in writing, because of course once they get to a history class, that instructor can't deal with the non-native speaker errors that are happening. And we kind of want to think about taking that back on in ESL and supporting students across campus. So I will just say, I'll tell you about one curricular model, and I call it the Bridges. And this model starts in non-credit, because we've been talking a lot about how to bridge credit and non-credit. And the model has a class that bridges from non-credit ESL into ESL. The curriculum has been condensed from 5 levels into 4. And at the upper levels, students are kind of not tracked, but they're given opportunity to work in cohorts onto an academic track and a transfer and degree track, and then a vocational side. And it's exciting that this year ESL is working on a lot of discussion with career technical areas and non-credit about how to make clear pathways from non-credit career technical kind of short-term vocational certificates into CTE areas. So a lot of things came out of the sabbatical, lots of ideas. I want to thank you all again for supporting sabbaticals, and it's been a really rich time for me.
Well, thank you, Betsy. Any questions?
No, I mean, I just want to add that I think that the outcome was fantastic. We know that we do well with our transfer students, but you guys recognizing that you have a whole set of students that is going to accomplish their goal, and if their goal is to enter into a CT training or whatever, and that's going to help them get a better paying job, it's going to help stimulate our economy here, and I think that all those moving things are going to be phenomenal for Santa Barbara. So thank you for recognizing this huge sector of our community that is going to benefit from this. I think that's great.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Next, we have
our second sabbatical report by Robin Goodnow from the same department.
ESL's representing tonight.
Yeah, very well.
I have to put on my glasses, which I hate. Thanks so much for your time at this busy time of the year. I ran over from a portfolio reading that wasn't finished when I left it, and I'm going home to a stack of tests, so I know we're all busy right now. We're all going to sound like parrots here, but I also want to thank the board so much for continuing, and Lori's strong support, for continuing to support sabbatical leaves. I've been thinking a lot after finishing my 20th year of teaching here, and I don't want to say how many total teaching. That is a lot like parenthood, that you're always thinking, once they're walking, I'll have some more time. Once they go to kindergarten, I'll have some more time. Once they're in high school and more independent, I'll have some more time. And that time just doesn't ever happen. So having that opportunity to reflect and renew your research and knowledge in your field and create and plan a new course, which is what I did, is really just a gift, I think Betsy already said. So thank you so much. I can say that after my year, even though it was a very busy year, that I came back with new enthusiasm and energy. Teaching a new course is really exciting. And I brought back new skills that are also informing courses that I've taught for a long time. So I can't say enough about that experience and what a gift and benefit it is to have here. With regard to my sabbatical, Betsy already mentioned that our department, like ESL departments across the state, is looking at how we can improve success rates for our students, how we can transition them better into career and academic programs. Betsy sort of focused on the big picture. I think we're all really focused on the big picture and the small parts as well. But my project focused on an area of curriculum that we had not addressed in our ESL program before. Just as a brief background, although some of you may already know, our core curriculum consists of reading, writing, and grammar courses at 5 levels. And that's our core. We also have had conversation classes as electives for a long time, but during some of the cuts that happened after 2008, they're elective courses, and so they weren't offered as regularly. And so students do practice speaking all the time, but not necessarily in as structured or directed or specific a way as might be necessary for some of the skills they need for college. We'd been talking about this for a lot of years. It's one of those conversations that goes on and on and on. So when I began to think about a sabbatical project, I decided that even though we were trying to make some bigger decisions, that I'd like to tackle that area of curriculum and at least update my research and knowledge and propose one course to begin to address that. So the project that I proposed for my sabbatical was to renew my research and the best practices for teaching specifically academic listening and speaking skills for transitioning advanced level students so that they would have more success in their college coursework. I also proposed to consult with faculty here at City College and find out what they thought students might be lacking in those curricular areas that might be impeding their success in other college courses, and to look at curricula at other community college campuses, specifically looking at their academic listening and speaking courses. And finally, the ultimate goal was to create a new listening and speaking course for academic skills for our upper level ESL students that are preparing to transition to courses beyond our program. So I'm happy to report that I achieved all of those goals. I started in my first semester with research and talking to people on campus. And it's interesting when you go on sabbatical, you think that everybody's on sabbatical. So I found out that it's just as challenging as always for faculty who are working to take time out. But I did get a lot of really valuable feedback from other faculty and discovered that, as expected, depending on what course you teach, how big it is, what the content is, teachers didn't always agree on what those listening and speaking skills were that students might need. If it was a big lecture class, they thought that listening comprehension was critical and being able to take good lecture notes. If it was a smaller class, they thought group work, knowing how to work well with other students and communicate clearly and understand what other students were saying was important. And some classes really like presentation skills and being able to speak and address a group. And some just didn't care about that at all. But I feel like I got a huge amount of valuable input, and all classes agreed that students understanding oral instructions was super important and being able to follow them accurately. The impression that I got from teachers here was borne out in talking to people at other campuses and looking at their curriculum. Different community colleges address those things in different types of courses, but most of the programs that I looked at were already addressing academic listening and speaking skills, which showed we were on the right track, a little behind, but on the right track. So after researching lots and lots of listening speaking type classes, some of them were integrated with other skills, reading, listening, and speaking, vocabulary listening and speaking, note-taking, listening and speaking. I felt like I had a good enough picture of what we needed here and what was being done at other campuses to develop my own course. And in spring, that's what I did. I created the course outline, I presented it to the department, got feedback, presented it to CAC, looked at lots of textbooks and selected a few, and also looked at tons of online material. And I have to say that I feel really fortunate to develop this course now, because the wealth of online materials, authentic lectures, authentic listening materials, activities to do is just amazing. It's almost an embarrassment of riches with what we have now, and difficult to select. But that was how I spent my second semester in developing the course. And the happiest part to report is that the course was offered the first time this semester. With an elective course, we're never sure, particularly, as Betsy mentioned, with some declining enrollment that we've experienced over the years. So I prepared to recruit and market, and we launched the course. It filled faster than my core courses did. It filled very quickly. I had a wait list on the first day. I took any student that was interested, so I had a slightly over-cap course load there. The class has been fabulous. I've learned a ton. I've run, my butt off all semester in that class, trying to keep up with the students, and already have a long list of what I want to do differently next semester. The surprising thing to me, I'm really happy to report, is that I thought the course would be about 50-50 international and resident students, maybe slightly heavier on the international student side because they don't have the opportunities that our resident students do to practice all the time. But my enrollment was almost 100% resident students. I have 3 international students in the course. So I'm excited about that. I hope that trend continues. I hope it enrolls as well for fall as it did for spring. And as always with the sabbatical, you just get started with a year and you know there are a million things left to do. So I'm currently looking at a prep course for intermediate students that would get them started earlier on these skills. I don't know that this course will always be offered as its own course. We're looking at curricular models, as Betsy mentioned, and we might end up integrating these skills into our regular core curriculum. But that's what I did on my sabbatical.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.
Both of you have been so articulate in helping us to see how your projects come back into the curriculum, come back into the classroom for the benefit of our students, and we really appreciate that. Anyone else? Marty?
No, I just wanted to thank you because I think this is the perfect time for this. I mean, it seems like a lot of ESL students locally would love to get into college, and we're talking about the college promise, and the whole thing is just kind of starting to get together so much, and I think what you did is amazing.
Oh, thank you so much.
I would hope that you don't go out and become a consultant to all the other community colleges or anything, but...
I'm way too busy and way too tired.
Good, because we really like what you did.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you. And now we have a report on our Havana, Cuba Study Abroad program.
Right, and to introduce the report and Francisco Rodriguez, I will ask Marilyn Spaventa to please do that honor.
Good evening. I'm here on behalf of Carola Smith, our Senior Director of International Programs, and she couldn't be here tonight. She did provide you with an overview of the history of our study abroad programs, and I just would like to point out a few things. Just as we value international students on our campus, we value the experience for our students to go to other countries. And for a community college, we've done very, very well with this. For 43 years, we've been offering study abroad programs. And I'd like to recognize Trustee Hasland for starting in the 1980s our very first semester-length program in China, which was very, very innovative at that time, then carrying on a program to the Ukraine. We followed that path in not only offering the traditional European study abroad programs, but programs in the less traditional sites. We've gone to Chile, Argentina, India, Rwanda, South Africa, Vietnam, and Cambodia, and really provided our students with a very much broader worldview. Cuba, we started in 2003, and we've had 5 study abroad programs in Cuba, which again, we're really proud of, really breaking some boundary and bringing students to Cuba. So I would like to introduce Dr. Francisco Rodriguez, who took our very last group of 25 students to Cuba during winter break, and he's going to tell you about it. Paco.
Good afternoon. My name is Francisco Rodriguez, and I have directed several programs to different countries in Spanish-speaking countries and Italy, Mexico, Spain, and the recent one to Cuba. I thank you again for the support, especially for these non-traditional programs. I want to clarify, you see, I'm nervous, I have a big accent, so I refer to the visuals. These were created by photographs taken by one of our students, participants, Tanya Roteman, who during the program took hundreds of pictures. She shared some with you on that envelope. She made them into postcards. Some of them you will see here. And she prepared this presentation for 2 classes on campus that when we sent out this email at the end of the program, when we were back, faculty instructors called her to have presentations in their classrooms for their students about the program itself. So she made this presentation. She told me about it. I said, hey, can I use it? So her photos are here. I only changed the order of a couple of them. So it's her text, her photos. And I'm going to go very quickly and fast because I understand that there's a long agenda and most of it has been said. I took a group of 25 students during the winter interbreak to Havana. It was a very successful program. I tried to outline out here what the success was due to, according to my perception. SBCC, the college itself, the Office of the Study Abroad, works so hard on this program. It's always, all the programs are tough to arrange, to organize, to make sure that the students are on board, that everybody. Cuba is especially difficult. A lot of red tape, visas, issues with insurance, and never ending. Carola, Tara, they worked so hard at this program and made it so successful. That's 50%. 30% of the success, from my perspective, is due to the students that we took. Great group of students. Have never had these kind of students before, perhaps because of the parents sending them over, spending money on this, on a non-traditional program. It takes a special parent to send them over. It also takes a special student to go to Cuba. It's not the vacation destination that you would think of. Cuba is rough. I mean, life is difficult. And the students really took advantage of it. You can see some of the faces are very tiny, but we have some colleagues. Mohamed Al-Susi, his wife, Carmen Rivero. John Getz was part of the group too. So they added, John got to know half of Havana. He met half of the country there. He spoke to everybody, so open, so nice. He knew them by name, and everybody knew us, and he knew what everybody was doing there. And the 20% that remains is from the people of Havana themselves. They were so sweet, so open to us, so welcoming, everybody smiling. So the perception that the Americans, they hate America, whatever, it doesn't work like that. When you're there, you feel it. They really want to know where you're from. They're happy to hear that we are there, speaking English. Some of them do because they have relatives in Florida or the United States. So the people of Cuba really made the program a success as well. This is another big part of it. I forgot to mention is the relationship between the more mature students and the younger students. That picture, these are Clara and Heather, who were part of the group, and Tim, one of the students as well. That illustrates the relationship between the students themselves. You know, more mature, younger students. In the past, I have had them complain, oh, they're too partying, they're doing this, and the younger complain about the older. Here, you know, everybody was happy, everybody included the rest, and it was really nice to have this wonderful group. Cuban people. This is Tanya, the author of the photos, and with the Cuban fellow there. We enjoyed music. Some more photos taken by Tanya. You can see the building. That's a barber shop. The city, if you look into photos, film, you can see that the city is really poor. Havana, it looked beautiful, but it's run down and it needs a lot of work. We enjoyed music everywhere you went. Cuban people were happy again, celebrating. Some of them felt the love. Amor is love. These beautiful cars that they look so beautiful, but you know they are they pollute a lot. They're noisy and they use diesel. So, but it's a big thing. The city, a lot of income comes from this. Again, more of the cars. Tanya called this the daily grind because it's, you know, getting on those buses. It's kind of challenging. Here, the fixing of the cars, the Cubans fix the car wherever it breaks down. So if the car breaks down right in the middle of the street, that's where they fix it. It's a little bit of a dangerous thing. And references to the embargo and so on, a little bit throughout the country. We were rained all the time. It rained. I was in the car with Tanya when she took these photos. I thought we were going to die at that point. It was incredible. We got a lot of rain, by the way. Almost out of the 14 days we were there, like 10, it rained very heavily. But still, we loved it. It was fun. We worked with it. Only this day. And I remember that the windshield wipers is one of the things missing on those cars. So you are driving next to in a taxi where the guy with the taxi driver has a little windshield wiper like this, where he's looking, and then you are with nothing. You don't know where you're going. Students in the morning had classes, 5 hours of classes every day of the week. And then in the afternoon, we had excursions, visit museums, have lectures on Cuba, Cuban history, healthcare. And the students completed 2 units the time they were there. Some students completed 5, were taking classes that were worth 5 units, 2 there and the rest in the classroom with me, the rest of the semester. These are some of the places we visited, beautiful expressions of art. The beach, beautiful again, good food. If you want to lose weight and you become a vegan, like I am, I lost 7 pounds in the program in 2 weeks. I couldn't eat anything. Everything has fish or pork or chicken. And so it's a good way to lose weight. The beach, beautiful, you know, blue and so on. We only went once. And we got rained out of it big time. Another of the excursions, we went to this river, beautiful. The trips outside of Havana, I really enjoyed it, and I recommend to the next program directors to Cuba to take the students more outside of Havana. This is all part of the things we visited. Here, Tanya called this evolution because you see the donkey with the car and the big ship in there. Where you really see it is if you go outside of Havana, the agriculture, all this using of old tools and donkeys and all of that, still very, very old in Cuba, but here this is just for tourists. Cuba is fashionable right now. When we went over there, this is Heather again. Ozzy Osbourne was on our same flight. He was first class, I hope. And on our way back, we flew with the crew for House of Lies. I had never heard of it before. But this is a Helen Hunt. You know, Tanya stole the shot in there. There were a lot of actors. And This is the last shot that Tania wanted to present. It's called Esperanza, which in Spanish is Spanish for hope. And this is a mural in Havana. And it really represents what the group coming back from Havana felt about the whole situation there. We hope that relationships change, that something new comes out of what's going on right now in terms of getting closer, and hopefully, the Cubans will have a better future. Okay? That's my report. Thank you.
Questions, anyone?
No, I just wanted to thank you. That's an amazing trip, I'm sure, because I got to go in 2002, I think it was, or maybe in 2003, to a mayor's conference. They told me there would be 5 American mayors there, and it wasn't true. There was 1. And then they said there would be lots of women there, and I was the only woman. So, but there were a lot of good discussions, and I was just so impressed by the Cuban knowledge of not only America, but of world history. I mean, they could, they would know who to vote for, because they really understood, and they all had college educations, and I was really kind of blown away by how wonderful they were. You always say, well, the people were nice, but these people were really genuinely, that's all they had because they were so poor. And I just absolutely loved it, so I kind of got you to do this because I thought it would be interesting, but in this day and age when we're stopping the embargo finally, and I just don't want to see a McDonald's sign there. I don't know how you feel about it, but that's my concern right now.
The Cubans are really concerned about the elections. They are all over the news. We have experience, I don't know whether Maryland decided not to say, but we had a program that was there, and when the politicians, there was some leadership change in the United States, our students couldn't get out of the country. From one day to the other, we could go to Cuba. Now we can't go to Cuba. We were already there, so they are very concerned about that. It has been in the past that things look that are opening, and then suddenly they're shut down again. Yeah. We hope not this time.
Okay, thank you.
You might tell them your next planned trip.
Oh, yeah.
Is non-traditional.
Yes, I'm taking spring break of 2017. I'm taking a group of, hopefully some of you too, to do the Camino de Santiago, the way of St. James. It's 10 days. We'll walk for 5 days, do 110 kilometers, which is enough to get a little diploma accomplishment. So there's a lot of interest in it, and if you will, we'll take conversation classes as we go. The first class that I'll teach as we walk, so because basically it's a walk for 5 days, and then we'll spend some time in Santiago, the city, to enjoy it. Beautiful area of Spain.
Peter, I know you didn't want to be reminded how long ago you went to China, but other
Seems
comments?
like just yesterday. No, it doesn't. Francisco, what do you think is the primary benefit to our students in going to a study abroad, in particular yours?
It varies a lot by the program, what the program gives, the city, the country. This time, I was wondering, because I get it. Once you and I, when we go to these countries, we come back, I got the picture. What I took away from this program was, this is my family. These guys look exactly like me. They talk like me. They have the same. So I took all of this, and I was wondering whether did the students get anything out of this? And I see them afterwards, and you see Tania. Tania is one of the participants. She got a lot out of it. The rest of the students, I see them on campus, at the cafeterias. I have lunch with some of them every now and then, and they get it. It's a little mysterious. They learn the language, which is fine. That's what we go to. But they get the point. And when I tell them about Cuba and they think about it, and they say, it really changed my life. And they may have a hard time explaining it, but it happens. And I have seen it time and again that when the students come back and they reflect, they're more mature, they know about somebody else's life, way of life. In Cuba, the difficulties, poverty, it's really, really, really bad. I mean, Cuba, you cannot imagine. I mean, people make $20, that's a salary, $20 a month. The beer costs $2. I mean, the prices, tourism is great, but it's bringing the prices high where the Cubans cannot reach. So students get it. And I think that's what really, to me, makes me go back, try to go back. As you know, there's liability, it's a pain in the neck sometimes, you have to deal with a lot of things. And the only reason why I keep doing it is because I see that they get it. And sometimes I cannot explain it. Maybe they can't explain it either, but somewhere along the line, it will show up.
Jonathan?
I just want to thank you for giving our students that incredible educational opportunity. The photographs are amazing, and thank you for these. These are incredible. And thank you for being arbiters of the U.S. and California and Santa Barbara and Cuba. And now they can come back and educate us about life in Cuba, and we can know better. So thank you so much. This is excellent.
Emily?
I just wanted to say thank you as well. I've talked to a couple students who were on attendance at the trip, and they're really, really, really grateful for your work and for the experience that they were able to have. I'm a big supporter of international, like what the cultures teach you, and I just would like to say thank you again. So,
Greg, will you?
Yeah, it's always been an interest of mine since about the time Peter went to China. Around that time, I went there. I went as a chaperone with a group of junior high school kids that were a choir. And then we stopped off in Japan, and all the students had homestays. One of the students was my daughter. And since then, I followed up with more travel and dealt with more students. But I got a concrete answer to what did they get out of it. Because one of them was my daughter. And I said, and she had this homestay in Japan with a family for a week. She was there. We didn't see her. She was off with the family. And I said, so what did you learn? And she says, boy, you know, the furniture's different. The food's different. And the language is really hard. But the people, she said, there were a lot of things that were the same. There was the family unit, there was the love, the support, and the care, and that was the same as I had at home. So it had a profound effect on her life. So in the future, I was presented with the opportunity to do some educational foundation tours with students, and I really liked that. And then I worked on student exchanges with Mexico, and had students from here go down there, and they'd come back and change. And one girl that went from here, not City College, but one of the high schools, she came back and she said, she got up in front of the group and she gave the shortest speech I've heard about something like this in a long time. She said, now I see why they come here. I mean, when we sponsor this, I don't know, you can't always put tangible benefit to it, but you can see it if you ask the right questions and you're patient enough to listen. And don't quit what you're doing. Thank you.
Anyone else? Great. I had one question which occurred to me, and that is, maybe Dr. Gaskin is the person to help us. What have we been able to do, and what more might we be able to do with helping our students to have this experience whose parents can't afford it? Have we got...
answer that?
Okay.
We do have a fund in the foundation, and we actually...
Maybe you should... Our audience beyond right here might miss it.
Good.
Yes, thank you for the question, because it's a very important one. We do reach out to students in EOPS and other programs, and I know a number of students who have had the opportunity, and we do have a scholarship to make sure that we're providing this opportunity for all of our students who are interested in going.
Well, that's great. And if anybody in the audience or in the who happens to see this wants to contribute, that would be to the foundation for that purpose. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. It's wonderful.
We pause for a moment here and see if anyone wants to suggest items for future board consideration. Looks like a quiet group today. Okay. There was mention of an election, and three of our trustee positions will be a part of that election. So our next items are resolution number 28, the order of election, and resolution number 29, candidate statements. Do we need, because they're resolutions, we need to take them separately. Okay. Can we have a motion for resolution 28, order of election?
I so move.
Second?
Second.
Marty, second. Okay. Any comments? Angie?
Trustee Croninger?
Aye.
Trustee Gallardo?
Aye.
Trustee Bloom?
Aye.
Trustee Haslam?
Aye.
Trustee Abud?
Aye.
Trustee Kugler?
Aye.
Trustee Nielsen?
Aye.
Student Trustee Gribble?
Aye.
All right. Resolution number 29, candidate statements. Can we have a motion for that resolution?
I'll move.
Peter? Second?
Second.
Veronica, second. Comments? Jonathan?
You know, I'm not sure where this really fits, but I remember when I ran, I found the candidate statement was extremely unaffordable for candidates to publish, and it is a way to get, access to the public on, who to vote for, and I don't think either me or my opponent published one because of the cost, so people didn't get to read the candidate statements to know who to vote for. So I'm wondering what maybe we can do to make that more accessible, because I would like people to be able to read candidate statements and know who to vote for as much as possible. Like, not everyone's going to get phone banked or go door to door to. Everyone gets the thing in the mail, so.
Well, you're right. It is expensive, and I'm not sure as a college that there is something we could directly do. That doesn't mean that maybe somebody outside the college with a different set of resources could take the idea and, try to do something, because certainly it is something that should not be a barrier to people wanting to run. We do want people to run.
I know in the city pays for any candidate statements. So you don't have to pay for your candidate statement, and they are expensive, $1,000 or something. I forgot what they are.
It's like $1,000.
It's really crazy.
Depending on the distribution.
And it is a way to get everybody to know what you're thinking, in running. So I don't know that that's something we could do, because that's not really in the budget. But maybe there's a way to do it. Maybe that is something we could put on a future agenda, or do some thinking
Or we
about it.
could figure out who to ask.
Yeah.
I suspect that if we ask legal counsel, the answer is no, but for us, for our budget.
I know, but
But that doesn't mean there aren't other ways to
But
try to solve
I
it.
think it's a really good idea, though. And there are some really good democratic, with a small d, reasons to do this sort of thing, so people can run and get people to know what they're thinking. So.
Well, thanks for bringing that up, Jonathan.
John, there is one other issue there, that, there's, before you have to do a big financial disclosure and everything, you can only spend up to $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do that statement, that sort of wipes it out right there. So then if you print any kind of brochures or business cards or anything, then you end up with a mountain of paperwork. So, it's just a conundrum. It's the way it is. But can we change it? I don't know.
I think when I was signing up to run and I asked that question, because I was concerned about the spending limit, or, the disclosure, they said that doesn't go towards the spending cap. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the county office is very helpful about answering questions. I do know that, so. Okay, Angie?
Trustee Croninger?
Aye.
Trustee Gallardo?
Aye.
Trustee Bloom?
Aye.
Trustee Haslam?
Aye.
Trustee Abud?
Aye.
Trustee Kugler?
Aye.
Trustee Nielsen?
Aye.
Student Trustee Gribble?
Aye.
Motion passes. 7.3, student trustee rights and responsibilities, and we are annually supposed to reaffirm these, and they are to make and second motions, cast an advisory vote, receive compensation as stipulated in Board Policy 2725, board member, which is on board member compensation, and serve a term of 1 year, and Emily is going to be able to continue on. You haven't been with us for a year anyway. So the recommendation is that we approve these rights and responsibilities. So a motion to approve.
I so move.
Craig, second?
Second.
Was that a second?
No,
That
there was
thumb
a
thing?
bird in here, and
Oh.
the gentleman opened the door, so the bird got out, which was really good.
Good, thank you.
Got the bird out.
Well, in addition, you got counted for seconding the
That's all
motion.
right.
Is that all right? Yeah. All right. Any comments? Jonathan?
I just wanted to ask Emily if she thinks, I mean, are these set in stone, or is this what the education code says, or do some
There's a
colleges do
little
it
bit of
differently?
flexibility, but
Okay.
it is an
Okay.
ed code, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And just one quick question, follow-up. So is the student trustee not able to serve on our subcommittees as the board, or is it up to them if they want to?
That's a good question.
I
Lori,
do
do you know?
not believe, I think that in an advisory capacity, they could serve, the student trustee could serve.
Okay.
But as a, and we rarely take vote, well, we,
Yeah,
an advisory capacity,
Okay.
then it would affect quorum.
Yeah, because do they affect quorum? No.
Okay. Emily?
I was looking into the advisory vote as well, and I was just, thinking possibly, I know it's the law as of right now, that the student trustee is just an advisory vote, but I was, talking to a couple of my mentors and whatnot, and they were possibly saying, bringing it to the attention of maybe getting it to be an actual counted vote, and then obviously I would be able to serve in subcommittees, which I would be very interested in as well.
Well, the
So-
subcommittees don't normally vote anyway,
Right,
but you're right. I mean, there is that requirement in
more
the, I believe in the ed code, and so it would take legislation.
Right.
So,
So
yeah.
just knowing that I am aware of that legislation and
Yeah.
possibilities of moving it forward.
Okay.
Can I bring something?
Jonathan?
I looked into it, and what was explained to me as the reason why the student trustee doesn't get a full vote on the board is because then the students get like a double vote on who's voting on the board. Like, if you live in Isla Vista, let's say, you would vote, and you're a student at SBCC, you would vote for the student trustee, and then you get a vote on the board like that, and then you would vote like for the Area 6 representative, and then you get a double vote, but then everyone else in the community wouldn't get that privilege of having two direct votes on the board. But, that is up to legislation to change. Nothing's set in stone in state law.
Right.
It is interesting.
Okay, thank you. Well, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Now we're going to the second reading of revisions to board policies. We have Chapter 3, General Institution, and that one is the speech, time, place, and manner. Lori, would you like us to take these together?
Please.
Okay, so we'll go through 7.5, which is also the second reading. This one is academic affairs, articulation, and prerequisites, co-requisites, advisories, and limitations. And 7.6, similarly, a second reading, student affairs, associated student government board policy, and 7.7, which is human resources, and there we have academic employees, eligibility for retiree health benefits, and travel and conference. So if we could go with a motion for 7.4 through 7.7.
So, first I want to ask, Dr. Gasson, do you know, is across the state, are all the community colleges kind of cleaning up the prerequisites, co-requisites to match up? And the reason I ask, and Ventura cleaned up their stuff, but I know for a while there was no prereq to stats at Ventura. So then a lot of students were just advised to go to Ventura, take the class, and they would pass it, so they bypass our all.
We've had ours in place. For
No, I know we have, but I'm saying our other community colleges, because they all set their own, so is our community colleges looking at it?
Oh, yes, we have been since the regs came out. Gosh, I was still at Lake Tahoe when they came out. And we adopted what most of the community colleges around the state adopted, which is the model district policy for prereqs and advisories and co-reqs, so yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know since then Ventura College now has a prereq to it, but for a while it was just really easy to go to Ventura, take statistics, and then you can transfer and be done. So, anyway.
Okay. So can we have a motion, 7.4 through 7.7?
Yeah, well, I want to move to approve 7.4 through 7.6.
7.6. Okay, we can pull out 7.7. Second on that?
Second.
Marty's seconding. All in favor on 7.4 through 7.6?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, so let's go to 7.7, which is the human resources.
Yeah, and I just would feel more comfortable if BP 7380 came back when we had a bigger picture on our bigger fiscal conversation that we'll have with retirements and STRS and PERS and all of that stuff. For
You mean
BP 7380.
This is eligibility for retiree health benefits.
Yeah, and I just would like to make it more comfortable if I just, once I get a bigger picture. I mean, I understand and doing the research and looking at the different things that different districts do and don't do. And I think it's a great policy that we offer to our employees. Like Dr. Ganson said, it's actually a modest compared to some do, some
No,
don't.
this doesn't have any fiscal implication.
At all.
This is allowing a retiree to pay full freight for our health benefits.
That last time I asked and you guys gave us a number.
That's a separate, that's water under the bridge. We've had that in our collective bargaining agreements. That's in our collective bargaining agreements. For somebody who's been here 15 years, retired, 15 years, we contribute $5,755 toward their retirement, but that's in our collective
Until
bargaining.
they're 65. That's the fiscal impact, is what
Yes.
you're saying is in the collective bargaining agreement.
This
one
has no
is,
fiscal impact.
is
It's
the,
allowing, let's say, looking to somebody, Luz retires or something. She can, with her own money, pay into our health benefits.
and we don't match or add anything.
No, there is no fiscal contribution.
Okay, I thought last time I asked, Joe gave us a number, and you said that it was something like.
That is for, in the collective bargaining agreements, we have probably the most modest post-employee benefits, retirement benefits. But this doesn't deal
Okay,
with that.
so I understood last time when I asked the question that you guys said, oh, this
Yeah, I
cost us
remember.
X dollar amount.
I think we moved to
this-
the general question and didn't distinguish between this policy and the collective bargaining, is that correct?
In all collective bargaining agreements.
So this one doesn't cost us anything?
Nothing, zero.
Okay, so that's good to clarify, because in our previous conversation, a dollar amount was thrown out.
What it says is, if you were fortunate enough to be an employee who retired from Santa Barbara City College, you have the right to, with your own money, pay into our health benefits. Not somebody off the street, not anyone else, but
Well,
if
right,
you
we know
happen-
that, yeah. Okay, so I'm glad you clarified that, because it
I'd
wasn't clear.
like to move approval.
Of 7.7. 7.7.
Second.
Second, okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Next item is 7.8, Board Self-Evaluation Instrument. We had an ad hoc committee. Jonathan, Veronica, and I met, discussed our existing evaluation form, and basically what we did was, instead of rating something with a 1 to 5, I believe it was, we made it into a text instrument where you're going to have to say, how did we do this particular thing and how might we do better in the future? So it's going to be a little harder to do, actually, this year, but we're bringing it back for your approval before it gets sent out. So, Craig?
I have a question, because I saw that and I thought, that makes it also harder to compare it from year to year to see how you're doing, because there's no quantitative way to do it, and there's no control over the language used. So if you want to see how you did one year versus the year before.
Speaking of the microphone, or we
Oh.
can't.
Oh, yeah. We're losing your comment there.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
So I'll repeat part of it.
Yes.
My concern is not that we can't get a good response from it at any given year, but it's very, very difficult when you do that to compare it to previous years or to track your progress, because you don't have the controls on the language used, and it's not quantified. If you want to have comments and a ranking, then
Well,
maybe I'd
that's
go
what we
for
did.
it.
We did previously have comments on a ranking, and we get rather few comments is what that does.
But now you don't want to have the ranking, just the comments, and I have to vote no on that, I'm sorry.
Well, that's okay.
So maybe just to clarify, I think, so when you get the result to something and you say, oh, you're a 3. And it's just it's closed, it's very low-level thinking. And so I think the point of this was to try to get some conversation. It's the only time of year that we get to, you're just talking. I mean, you're not going to get an A or an F, like you're not going to fail, right? It was just to identify, like as a board, let's really talk about this. And this is the one opportunity you have as your job as a trustee. And it wasn't meant to write an essay, it was meant to raise the level of conversation. And I remember even when the lady who did it for us last time, was it Sindra?
Sindra.
Yeah, she was lovely. And I think I remember I even asked, well, it's kind of interesting that you're quantifying things that were qualitative, and so you get messy back and forth between quantitative and qualitative.
How do you compare it to see what progress you made against previous years and previous surveys?
It's meant to have a conversation. Do you think you're attentive and responsive to changing emerging educational needs? Do you? How so?
We could have conversations without, this is like a ranking, like creating a record so we can measure what we're doing and where we're going, and we lose the intent of what this is really for. Your intent, I respect, and I think it's very worthwhile, but this is not the tool.
I think
That's
we may
only
have
my
a different
opinion.
views of what it's for, but I think that's what I'm hearing. Mary Ann?
I really liked it. And you know that I'm somebody who's written thousands of the ranking kinds and all that sort of thing. I liked it because I think, Craig, that we can use it as the baseline for the development of future surveys. When Peter and I wrote those first surveys, nobody had taken surveys before, and so we had to come up with the areas of inquiry and all that sort of thing. After this is done and we have the results, we should have the areas of inquiry that should be explored the next time. And that's important because Peter and I may have missed something that you all really wanted to say because we were taking it from the rather traditional point of view of what our roles were, since that's the only thing we had to use. So I think it's a very good start. I think you will find it challenging to write the report, and maybe that's not so bad. But if it is used as the basis of the inquiry from then on, it's a good idea. The other thing is, though, I would beg you, please, to let it result in a discussion, in a real discussion.
That was the intent, I think, which is exactly what Veronica was saying, to facilitate the discussion, which I think we were thinking is the purpose, as opposed to numerical ranking. I mean, our membership changes over time. Our viewpoints are not necessarily consistent. I would hesitate to call this any kind of a numerical success, over any significant time. But.
Tell me what happens to, and this may address Craig's concern, what happens to the input that we provide?
Well, previously what happened was the numbers got added up and there were some little graphs about the numbers.
Right.
And then we tried to get to a conversation on it. This time, we would see what people's comments are and then have a conversation with more specificity. I think previously we got, some comments, but most people, when you've got a number you can put down, it's easy to go on to the next question.
So we would all receive back the question and then everybody's response?
Mhm.
Okay? And that takes some mechanics, but I think that could be really useful. And these are, are we identified that this, Craig said this, Peter said that, or?
Can be, or we can do it at the evaluation where we say, well, that was my comment and this is what I was thinking.
Okay.
Which probably is a simpler way to go, given the technology of it. Jonathan?
So I want to say a few words on it because this is something I really supported. I think the number system really just didn't work for me when I saw the data. It didn't really mean much. Like a 5 to me could be different than what a 5 to Peter is. So at least if I wrote down why I think we support a climate of academic excellence, we get a different idea of what I think we're doing compared to what Peter's doing, for example. And then also with the graphs we got, I thought it was very stark when you got like 4 people with a 5 and then 1 with a 1. That makes that person who put a 1 maybe not feel like they want to say that they were the 1, for example. But if we're using dialogue, that's much easier to say, well, it's easier to explain why you think we're doing a bad job with a conversation instead of with a 1 out of 5. And what was I going to say? Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Oh, right. SurveyMonkey, which I assume is what we're going to use for analysis, actually does have a text aggregator. So we can start seeing, okay, in this question, this word came up the most, or these words were the most, and they'll be like bigger on the text analysis. So that's our data, is that let's say, okay, I'm going to just say what I might say for number 1. I'll say, okay, we supported the sabbaticals a lot. I'll write that in. So let's say 3 of us wrote sabbatical, then sabbatical will be amplified more than another word. And then we'll know that, okay, this is something that it's good, we should continue doing. So I just thought,
or not.
or not. So I just thought that the data, like having quantifiable data is very important and I support it, but the data we were getting, in my view, last year, I saw it and it didn't mean anything. I couldn't really draw much meaning from it. So I think that this way would be a better way to draw better meaning from data.
I would agree that the number system had some serious limitations. One of us might have rated something a 5, thinking that as a group we deserved a 5. And then I might have rated us a 4 because I personally didn't feel like I made that kind of a contribution. So there was an absence of clarity as to what the numbers actually meant. I think this is worth trying. If we don't like it, well, next year, guess what?
Exactly.
Marcia?
We're not committed. Marianne?
One more thing. I knew in the beginning that we couldn't continue to do it that way because we're too small a sample. As Jonathan pointed out, if you have anybody out of the pattern, you don't know what that means because there are only 7 of us, and if 1 is out, it could mean they sneezed that day. If you had 100 and 30 were out, that would tell you something. So in the long run, what we were constructing was just a beginning to make people feel safe doing the work. And I hope that this does that same thing.
Emily?
So it's a lot of teacher assessments have been going around recently. And what I find helpful on those is the 1 through 5 is labeled as strongly agree, neither disagree nor disagree, disagree, or highly disagree. And with that, you're able to see where 1 through 5 lies on your rating. And I think if we incorporate that, some sort of that element, and with a response underneath it, you check agree, neither disagree, whatever your answer would be, with the explanation below it, that might be in a common ground to both the numerical need, because as a student, you get an 80 on an essay, and the first thing you do is flip to the back to read why you got that. So I understand both sides, and so incorporating and seeing where your number 3 lies and my number 3 are on the same page.
I think that's helpful, but the problem, I mean, we had the numerical part, and the problem, to my mind, last time was agreeing with Jonathan that the numbers really didn't tell me anything. I also felt like it was too easy to skip the comments. Once you have an alternative like that, you can just move on, I agree. Next question. That's where I got enthusiastic about trying this. But it's interesting. I think it bodes well for our self-evaluation that we have lots of viewpoints.
Well, and this doesn't have to be the only self-evaluation we ever do either. I mean, if we don't get anything from the result, then we do it a different way, right away.
We could do that.
I found the numbers pretty helpful. I can see where this would be even more helpful, even though more time-consuming. But, it leaves something out for me. I think it's a great idea, but I think maybe we should do both. But when I saw the numbers, I could tell right away which issues, we should focus our discussion on, and which issues we seem to feel the same on. It was, it just was a way to index where we're at, and then over time, we could see where our interests, or our discussions, what we needed to do, changed over time. When you change the system and what we're doing, then you can no longer make those comparisons. That's my point. I'm not saying what you're doing isn't valid and isn't great. It's just, taking away a tool that I rather liked. But it's just me, and I'm only one on the board, so it's okay.
Well, Marcia, if I understand your argument correctly, it is that by adding the scale, it might be a disincentive for us to be more verbal.
It has been in the past, I think. I mean, there was always room for comment, but a lot of blanks. Jonathan?
Just to go off that, I think that if we do both, then someone might put in less of a comment. If we do it comments only, even though we might all have put a 5, we would have different reasons why. We would see very many different perspectives on each question. And I think even though we all might agree on a 5, let's say we put 1 as a 5, or as all of us, I think that doesn't mean we should skip it. I think we should continue being critical, or challenging ourselves to be critical in why we are being supportive of a climate of academic excellence. Putting a 5 is just way too easy to click, yes, we are, because we're supposed to be at 5 at all of them, right? So I think forcing us to think about how we're doing our jobs is good for us, at least once, for us to do it this way.
Anyone else?
Move approval?
Well, we need a motion.
I
Are
move
you-
approval of item 7.8, board self-evaluation instrument for the 2015-2016 year.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second?
Mary Ann, second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No.
Two.
Yes.
Yeah, and I need to explain a little bit because I
Sure.
haven't spoken, but the truth is I don't think there's anything lost by putting a number and then putting examples. I was looking at the last year's survey, and it left way too small a space for you to respond. There's only, it's like one line. You couldn't put 3 or 4 different
I
things.
think if you're on SurveyMonkey, you can just keep right on typing. It's not
Well-
limiting you there.
Fine, but I've got it right in front of me, and it's not that way. But that's okay.
Okay.
All
Well, I'm
I'm
just saying
saying
when you-
is, it would be really easy to put a number 3 and then put examples.
or a 5 in examples, because it may be that allowing sabbaticals is a number 5 for you, but for me, it's a number 1, because it's okay, but it's not quite there. So I think there's value in the numbers, but I also think there's values in having some examples.
Okay.
So I just said no, but you won.
But I appreciate it.
That's fine.
I didn't win. I think the
No,
board
the
made a
5
decision.
won.
Okay. So, the motion passed, and we have a couple of people who would like to see how it goes. Well, actually, we all want to see how it goes, and we will certainly revisit it. We have now got to Human Resources, I believe. Pat?
Hello again. I have the consent agenda items 9.1, 2, 3, and 4 to present. I have a couple of changes on 9.1, page 2 of 4 under the heading of classified appointment. You'll notice that there are 3 names to be announced. I have 2 names to be announced and 1 to be removed. The first name to be announced is for the admissions and records technician. We have selected Brittany Harden, Harden. She will come in on step 2 of level 25, and her start date is slated to be May 16th. The next item is the administrative assistant 2. That item will be held over until our next meeting, so that should be removed today. And for the PABX operator receptionist, Yanette with a Y, Herrera will be our PABX operator receptionist, coming in at step 2 and starting on May 2nd. Yanette is actually someone who worked with us previously, and she's coming back. So we're very happy to see her again. With those 2 changes, I'd like to submit 9.1, 2, 3, and 4 for your approval tonight.
Okay, well, let's have a motion first, and then we can have any comments. So,
I so move.
Second?
okay, Peter moved, Marty second. And now, comments.
I see, so my own, it's not like you can't, I just want to talk about 9.1, and my only concern is not having, for our EVP, knowing that all these conversations are going on. You mentioned Kim, they're talking about what they will do with or without. And so I also, Transparent California was also brought to my attention. I went on Transparent California. And while those salaries, I'm sure they're probably not accurate, right? Everything that's on transparentcalifornia.org.
They're a year
Are they
or 2
pretty accurate?
behind. Well, they're a year or 2 behind at least.
Yeah, they would be delayed, and
Yeah, so what we saw, so I guess what's there for 2014, 2013, I would feel more comfortable if this came back later when we saw what our budget looks like. I know in fiscal, we just got a very high level because everything's still in the works. And that's just me. That's just me feeling like I haven't done my due diligence to see what this all looks like in the grand picture, knowing that the channels wrote up an article of comments that were at CPC. I think Kenley was quoted saying that there's like a hiring chill or something like that. And so I think that as I'm hearing these things, both from faculty and staff, questions, I want to make sure that I know on the bigger picture how this is all going to play out. And that's just me. And it has nothing to do with obviously process and knowing that goodness, I think Eva was involved in this search for this candidate who looks amazing. So it has nothing to do with that. I'm strictly talking money here. And I would feel more comfortable later.
Can we hear from Lori, maybe?
Yeah.
Sure, I'm sorry. I was
No, that's
looking
okay.
at something else.
While it might be, I can certainly understand why a salary at this level might be of concern. I can guarantee you that this is not the position that you want to not replace. This is a position that is critical for this institution. And we are looking at every vacant position and making a very strategic, very informed, and very thoughtful decision about replacement. Evidence of that are my two vacancies in Director of Marketing and the Public Information Officer, and I'm melding that and only replacing one. But this institution cannot function without an Executive Vice President for Educational Programs. You may think then we have an Executive Vice President for Educational Programs in the individual who has filled that position for a number of years. However, that person is reassigned into an important area of institutional effectiveness. So it is the recommendation, and it remains the recommendation of your president that we hire Paul Jarrell for the Executive Vice President for Educational.
Yeah. And I wouldn't dispute that, Dr. Gaskin. And that, again, this is not to get into the process of it all. I recognize all of that, but I think that for me personally, it is difficult when staff ask. You know, we have an executive VP on payroll. And so I think when you go on Transparent California and you look at these large numbers after salaries and benefits, and you talk about these times where we're discussing this, I'm not saying that this is not what we're going to go forward, that your recommendation is invalid, but what we saw at fiscal was just a very preliminary, very high level of, we will come back to you, which is great. It's respected. You guys do amazing participatory governance here at the college, but we didn't get anything in fiscal at this last meeting that, you know, they gave us even a glimpse at now what we will be looking at in terms of the percentage of, you know, of our expenditures to salaries and benefits. And you know, I know we talked about now being at 89%, was the last figure you told us, and that's fine. I know Lindsay and the team have assured us we have our reserves. Everything's good. I'm not questioning anything. I would feel better that I need to do my due diligence to know, like, what are the numbers? What are we looking at? And we just don't have that yet because it hasn't came to us yet because everybody is still working on this. So I agree with everything you're saying. And yes, we do have another EVP. Dr. Friedlander is here. And doing important work for us and on payroll, and it's and people, you know, that's there. So that's my only thing, and so I don't know how I wouldn't just pull out one name and say, oh, hold that off, you know? I mean, obviously I'm not going to not approve all these other positions that are on the same agenda.
I have a little comment, and I have maybe empathy for what Veronica just said. I think I had to understand what you said. And what we did in this particular thing is basically at this point we're ratifying decisions that were already made. And we've already expended effort, great effort, and planning has been created, been implemented, and a lot of effort's gone into it. And now, today, the way I see it is we're not saying yes or no to do this. The yes or no part, do it or not, was previous. This is a ratification of basically what's already been done and in process. That doesn't mean that I don't understand and that I do not share Veronica's concerns, because we do need, you know, we need to do a little bit better job in our in the fiscal committee, bringing this information to the board and getting more information that the board seems to want. But that doesn't have to affect this motion. This needs to be continued, otherwise we've wasted a huge amount of effort. That's just my opinion.
And if I could clarify, this decision was made 2 years ago.
Yeah, and I think that's what's hard. And so just to make public, I mean, obviously I can't sit here and talk about things that were discussed in closed session or open session, right? I think that there's a lot of conversations that have been going on. And I don't feel that to date we have all of the information that we have. I'm not saying that we're not going to approve this. I'm just saying, could this hold off? And then maybe by then, you guys can come back to us with what actually we're looking at for fall, because that didn't happen at fiscal. I mean, we would be lying here saying, yeah, we got a picture of what's happening. It's still all in process, which needs to happen. Everything needs to go through all of the different groups that need to review this before it comes to us. And we didn't get that at fiscal.
The fiscal budget development timeline has been in fiscal's hands since January. We have 2 meetings in May, which is aligned with the development of the budget and its flow through shared governance. So revenues and expenditures are scheduled per the budget timeline in May, the 2 meetings for fiscal committee. So it's not that we haven't provided anything. We are right on schedule in providing fiscal with revenues. That's what we did at the last fiscal meeting. The next 2 fiscal meetings put it all together with expenditures.
I think these are complicated processes, and I'm hearing, Veronica saying that it feels too early for her because of that schedule that you just described. And at the same time, we have other parts of the college that need to move forward, as Craig is describing. So I think it's fair to acknowledge these concerns. We're all worried about the budget. I think we all know that we have some budget challenges here. So I would just suggest that we acknowledge our concerns and move forward with deciding, and perhaps, unless someone has a different comment on this subject, I'd just like to note that, for me at least, Dr. Gaskin's retirement is a sad milestone for us. We really have appreciated your heart and soul going into this institution, and would like to thank you for that. We will have another opportunity to do that, but other opportunities. But I just wanted to mention it here today because we're being asked to approve it. And in many ways we don't, but we also don't believe in indentured servitude either, so.
You mean we can't force her to stay or threaten her?
No.
I would like to say that I do think that we have to approve that request because I know it is a long time planned position. But I will be very hesitant to approve any more until I'm very comfortable that the whole board, not just the fiscal committee, the whole board has a really clear picture of the financial patterns of the college. Because while the fiscal committee knew, and certainly Dr. Gaskin has made clear to us for several years that we couldn't plan those lovely, plump financial years over the long haul. And nonetheless, it is a rather startling amount of money that is suddenly at risk. And I want us to be very clear and very thoughtful, and not just the fiscal committee. I'd like the whole board to have a really clear picture of the finances before we get any further ahead of ourselves. So while I'm going to vote for this one, if a larger salary or an additional position came up next time, I'm just alerting you all that I would think really hard about it unless we had discussed it as a board and looked at the finances of it.
Okay, noted. Anyone else? Oh, Peters.
Well, I think that's a legitimate position. I think, I mean, I'm going to support this because I'm very encouraged by President Gaskin's comment that we are doing this in a very strategic way. But I also think that we as a board need to be completely clued in as to what lies ahead. And I'm wondering when, or what is the process by which we gain that kind of information? Do we schedule a full board session as a study session?
We do
on
have
this?
in mind doing that. I think at this stage of the process, my view would be that we're also making a transition here, and we need to respect that as well. So my inclination is to let our new superintendent president talk with us about these issues, and that will be number one thing on the agenda when that person comes.
Are there opportunity costs to that decision?
Not in this course of the normal system. In other words, we prepare a tentative budget. We're approaching the final stages of that process. It gets approved in June. And then we move from the tentative to the final in September. It's not one's first choice to necessarily wrestle with some of these questions during the summer, but I think it's also a good time in another sense, because maybe that's what you can put your mind to instead of many of the other things that go on during the academic year. But I do think, and Marianne has touched on this, that it's appropriate for the entire board to have a pretty good discussion on the budget and a pretty good understanding with an options to ask and answer all kinds of questions.
But if I'm understanding Mary Ann correctly, you're going to be concerned next time additional positions are recommended for funding
That's right.
between now and the time we
Unless
have that session.
we have that session. I simply don't think that as a whole board, we're in a position to approve anything additional until we've had a chance to discuss it. Now, that is not the same thing as renewals of already funded, already in the process positions that we have already known about. But I'm just alerting everybody that this is serious. This is not fun. And it's not devastating, and that the reason it's not devastating is our leadership. But I'm not sure that everybody on the board understands what that article meant and what kind of decisions we will have to make.
I need to make sure everybody's on the same page here.
No,
Other than new faculty positions that were categorically funded from the state, we have added no new positions. I think with classified staff, it's been 2 years since we've added a new classified position, and we haven't added new administrative positions. And this year, fall 17 hire are the only new faculty positions because we were obligated by a funding stream. I really need to clarify that for you all, that there are no new positions, none. And what we're talking about with CPC is slowing the replacement of vacant positions. That is something we have done before. CPC is aware of that, experienced with that, and that's how we handle the moderation in our staffing levels, is through a slowing, not a freeze, not a chill, just a very thoughtful approach. That's what we are practicing. We've had a vacancy in another area that we are not filling, and CPC knows that. So I want to be really careful about terminology because it can be misleading. No new positions. We haven't had it for a couple of years.
Okay, any other comments, folks? All right.
I'm satisfied.
All right.
Let's vote.
Well, I think we need a motion on, and you wanted all three, Pat, right?
All four.
Four, excuse me, I'm not counting.
We have a motion?
No, we don't.
You do have a motion.
We did? I'm
Dr. Hasland and
I
trustee
thought we had a
Bloom.
second as well, did we not?
Trustee
All right.
Bloom
Yeah.
seconded it.
It's been so long, I forgot.
Are we voting on all four? Are we taking these all together, or are we doing them one at a time?
9.1, 2, 3.
No, we're taking them all together.
Okay.
Yeah, because you can't take one out of 9.1. It's 9.1's packaged as a box.
Right, we could, but we're not. Okay.
No, that's what I'm saying.
So, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
So, one.
That means I didn't take your retirement either, Lori.
Thank you.
Okay. Mayor, oh,
I'm just going to have to excuse myself for heading to Ontario for General Assembly, the ASG, so
Okay,
6:30.
thank you.
So coming up close.
We are running.
Have a good one.
We're running
Thank
long,
you so much. Have a good
okay.
evening, everyone.
Evelyn. I mean, Marilyn. God, I am getting tired.
We ended the same way. I'm here with 4 consent items, 10.1, 2, 3, and 4.
Okay. These are our new course modifications, stipends for faculty, annual review and approval of instructional fees, and addendum, and Center for Lifelong Learning proposed courses, correct?
Correct.
Can we have a motion to approve all 4 of those?
Second?
Who was the motion? We need a motion.
Oh,
Okay.
I'll make the motion.
Craig, motion, Mary Ann, second. All right. Comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That one was easy.
Way I like it.
Joe?
I guess we'll see if I'm that lucky as well, right? I'd like to present for you items 11.1 through 11.5, which is the business services consent agenda items. And just briefly, 11.1 and 2 are regular monthly transactions, the register of warrants, and the ratification of purchase orders. 11.3 is the approval of the Madrid, Spain Fall 2016 Study Abroad Program contract with Accent, and we deal with Accent. We've dealt with them for quite a while. 11.4 is the approval of the MOU with California State University Channel Islands. This is actually a reaffirmation of our agreement with them that we've had for some time, where they teach their courses on our campus and their programs. And 11.5 is the authorization to award the phone system refresh bid number 716 to Maverick Networks, Inc. Maverick Networks, Inc. was not the low bidder, but EdCode allows us with telephone systems to select another bidder, and we picked a bidder, the selection committee did, that provided a more complete bid and actually fit our processes and systems much better here.
Thank you for that explanation on that one. Okay, can we have a motion to approve 11.1 to 11.5?
I move that we approve.
Craig, is that a second? Or are you,
No, it's
is
not
there
a
a bird?
second. Okay, I'll second it, but we get a discussion maybe.
Yeah. We have a motion and a second, and now we can discuss. Did you have something?
Well, yeah, not really specific, but I made, I can't see a list of the
11.1.
warrants and whatever.
Right here.
I can't log in, so, and I had some questions, and they're nothing major, and I was going to vote for approval, but I wanted to ask some ridiculous questions on a couple of items to bring them, so that you know somebody's watching.
Okay.
Something, I just, and I,
Are you thinking of the transfers and not the warrants? I think you're
no,
thinking-
not the transfers, I was thinking
So you're
about
thinking
the
this?
approve the
The
purchase.
ratification of purchase.
If that's
Yeah,
kind of routine,
there
that's
were
right
just
there.
items on there, and I usually ask him about a couple of them, and I can't see them, so I'm not going to vote on, or I'm going to vote no on it, just,
Wait,
it
right
won't
there.
matter to him, but at least he knows I'm not
Right,
happy.
right. They're right here.
Yeah.
I gotta find it. I'm sorry to hold things up. I know it's getting late.
It's all right.
It's gonna be like 90 degrees. Palm Springs, 90 degrees, I think.
It's bothering me.
In Palm Springs, gonna be like 90 degrees. Yeah. It's gonna be hot.
Something's wrong with my head right now. I can't pick it out, so I guess it's my problem.
Okay.
I should print out my stuff. It's,
You wanna just take it out since you're not gonna vote for it anyway?
no, I'll vote for it. I'll send him a memo later.
I was
Okay.
going to say,
Marcia?
you could just ask him later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Marcia?
Mary?
While Craig is thinking, maybe, I want to point out that the phone system refresh bid is a large bid. I am not opposed to it. I realize that we probably need it and that it's probably been in the plan. But given that it represents almost 10% of, if I'm figuring this right, of the overrun or underrun, depending on how you look at it. At any rate, the amount of money that we are concerned about, I just want to point out to you that this is large.
We're looking at, I'm looking at the bid tabulation, Joe, and I think the one you're recommending is $265,334.
It is. This has been in the works for at least 3 years. We've had issues with this system. We have a very old Mitel system. You can see Mitel themselves bid on it. They bid $526,000. Maverick Networks Inc. Provided a very complete proposal, which showed us included installation. And it also incorporates our current system, but improves it to the level we need it to be.
But if I could, I think that there's maybe another way to explain this. These are one-time only funds.
Yeah.
And even if you cut this, it's not going to help our general fund ongoing expense.
Thank you.
To balance the budget, you have to reduce, or we have to reduce our ongoing general fund. So this is one-time money, categorical, set aside for this.
For some reason, I saw it as 500,000. If it's not, I'm not unhappy.
265.
Yeah, if you just said 265, maybe the 500 was last
It was the
time
bid
or
above it.
something.
It's the-
Okay, sorry.
No worries. Okay.
It's perhaps worth noting, by way of comparison, that when one of your predecessors, Charles Hanson, urged us to acquire a phone system, the faculty in the social science building were offered a choice, either phones or bathrooms, but not both. We have come a long way.
My goodness. Which you vote for?
I wasn't given a vote.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, Joe.
Okay, business services action items. The first one is 12.1, resolution number 30, which is the budget transfer between major objects. And if there are no questions, we can take that with 12.2, which is resolution number 31, the augmentation of revenue.
Okay, let me suggest a motion for resolution number 30 and resolution number 31 together.
So-
Jonathan? Peter, you got second.
Good.
All right. Angie, well, any comments? Nope. Angie?
Trustee Croninger?
Aye.
Trustee Gallardo?
Aye.
Trustee Bloom?
Aye.
Trustee Hasland?
Aye.
Trustee Abud?
Aye.
Trustee Kugler?
Aye.
Trustee Nielsen?
Aye.
And the
Motion.
last item on our agenda is item 12.3, the approval of the district audit firm. There was a selection committee that we put together, and we selected Vavrick, Trine and Day and Company LLPs to provide the independent auditing services for the district's required annual audits. The college received 4 responses to their request for proposal for auditing services. The selection committee then selected 2 of the auditors for follow-up interviews before selecting the company Vavrick, Trine and Day.
Okay. And I also note that we are extending our thanks to Glenn Burdett, who has done it for, I believe, 12 years or more for us. And this is intended to be just a routine kind of rotation so that you get fresh eyes every periodic time period. And we appreciate your doing that. May I have a motion to approve?
I so.
Marianne moved, Craig seconded. Um,
I have a question? I have a question.
Of course you can.
Are we bound by any laws or anything that tell us we have to change auditor every 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 years or anything?
No, and
Because it
there's
seems like a
no-
long time that we've had
no
the same
requirement.
auditor, but, I mean, it's done us fine, but you know what I mean? I think a rotation is healthy, so that part's good. Not that anything was wrong, but, you know, it's just good to have those fresh eyes.
Okay. Well, this is not a resolution, so we can vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
We're now adjourning to closed session. And we will reconvene after the closed session.
Why don't you just get on the internet? If you just get on the internet, you'll get it.
Okay.
Oh, you have to log into Pipeline. Your Pipeline account.
It won't
there's
take my
probably a need to
password, it
stay
won't let me on.
Well,
It's not your fault.
I'm sorry.
Thanks for trying.
You're usually up and running. I always check your
I know,
iPad.
but it won't.
And my iPad was working today. But my iPad screen is this little.